This past weekend I took part in a 40 hours of film competition. We had 40 hours to write, film, and edit a short film. We ended up with this mystery vibe with a heisted piece of artwork that's famous among Canberrans. My role in our film crew was as composer, and what I decided to go with was some film-noir-style jazz to capture that mystery vibe. So what I'm going to go through today is the techniques that I used to write that music quickly, efficiently, and make it sound cool and appropriate for the film that we made. So, the first step to writing some film noir jazz is to get some snare drum played with brushes in a nice sweeping pattern. So, let's get that taken care of. Okay, so maybe you don't play drums, in which case there are plenty of places where you can download a sample of this kind of snare drum pattern being played. I think I used noise.com, but you could easily rip some audio off of YouTube if you want to be really cheap about it. The next thing to add to your film noir jazz track is walking double bass. Now, you probably don't own a double bass, neither do I. The truth is, you don't need one. Here are the cons of owning a double bass, and here are the pros. Don't bother. Just find yourself a good sample and use that instead. When you're creating your walking bass line, pick a minor key, it's pretty good. Stick to the chord tones. So for example, I wrote mine in C minor. I'm mostly sticking to C, E flat, and G, but occasionally I'll use other notes from the key, and in particular I will use chromatic lines, walking up or down chromatically, resolving to a chord tone. So I might play a pattern like this. I started on C, went to E flat, which are both chord tones for C minor, then I walked B flat, B natural, and then up to C. So I end again on a chord tone, that's C, but I've walked up to it chromatically from the B flat. When you hear some of my music in a second, you'll hear that the bass line is being quite chromatic. You can be free to do that because there aren't many layers in this type of music, so your chromatic tones aren't really going to clash with many of the other instruments if you add any others at all. Any others at all? That's right. Once you've got your snare drum and your double bass, that's really all you need. Everything after this is just spice. Here's a little example of the snare drum, double bass, and you'll hear you've already captured the vibe. Take a listen. Sounds pretty good. But there are a couple of other elements that you can add, and I chose to add these elements. They're going to make this track sound extra jazzy. So, what are they? The next thing we're going to add, vibraphone. Again, I don't own a real vibraphone, I'm just using a sample library, but play some chords, particularly a minor chord with a major 7 sounds really good. You can add some more extensions like a 9 or a sharp 11, and you have yourself a really tasty chord to play over. Play some little licks in a minor key, keep it light and sparse. Here's something with the vibraphone as well as the bass and drums. And the last thing to add is a trumpet with a harmonium. I do play trumpet, so I recorded this myself. The vibraphone, the bass, the snare, harmonium trumpet, that's all you need. Anything else, and to be honest, you're really going overboard, especially if, like me, you only had 40 hours or less to compose, record, produce the sound, and send it off to your editors. So, here's the full track with everything. Take a listen. You'll notice I'm playing pretty simple lines on the trumpet. You don't want to make it too complicated, you want to keep it mysterious. Let the drums give you movement, the bass give you sort of a constant pattern underneath, the vibraphone to add a bit of colour, and then the trumpet is just sort of floating over the top. That's what you want to keep it to in general. And that's all you need to make a film noir style jazz track. If you're like me and you had a short timeline in which to write, record, and then produce and export your music, this is a great method to take. But if you have more time or you want to be more creative, feel free to add other elements, chord changes, that kind of thing. or just wing it like me and improvise. But either way, I hope you enjoyed this little short, simple tutorial. There's links down below to my original music as well as to the film that we created, and you can hear this music in context. Thanks for watching.